So
Yeah.
that might be where the extra sound.
Yeah, guys, make sure we're not.
Or it could be Daniel, who I asked to put on. Daniel, are you there?
That's me. That's me.
How you doing? Thanks for waiting and laughing to let me know that we should pay attention to our caller.
No, it's okay. You guys are really entertaining, and I appreciate it. I didn't mean to interrupt with my laughter.
No, it's good.
No, it's all right.
We're ready to listen to what you've got.
Okay. Well, I guess I might be a bit unusual compared to some callers because just of my faith, I'm a universal pantheist, and there's not a lot of us, and we kind of differ from a lot of other faiths, and we like to think that we are kind of more or less in line with with the scientific community and scientific reasoning. Of course, if you guys don't mind, I'd have to give you like a real quick, just 1 or 2 minute rundown of my faith a little bit, like just the core maybe.
Sure. If you can kind of give a brief overview of what you believe, then we can get into the why, which is the more important part.
Yeah, like the TLDR version.
Exactly. That's what I'll try to do right now. So,
Okay.
So what we have in common, we pantheists, we always like to start and focus more on, the commonalities and the things that we all have in common together. And what we have in common with, I would think, most atheists is really actually leaning, at least my congregation, on scientific theory, on the scientific method, because we agree with you that it's it's the most reliable and pretty much the best way to comprehend the universe. But to us, it is also the most reliable way to comprehend God. Because we believe those two things are the same, kind of.
So, Daniel, I apologize for interrupting now. I just want to let the control room know we lost our monitor out here. Feel free to continue.
Yeah, please.
Sure. So what we believe essentially is that even though, and we do not assert this as absolute, we do not assert this as something that you have to follow and accept with us. This is what we believe, and but we think we have a decently strong basis to believe it or not, even though it may not be, a scientific observable basis. We believe it's a fairly strong one.
Well, I'm a little confused because what you said was you believe that science is the best way to understand God because you think that God is synonymous with the universe.
Yes, essentially.
So if God and the universe are synonymous, how do you draw any distinction?
Yeah, I mean...
Well, that's basically our belief, at least my sect. I mean, there are different pantheists out there. I'm kind of, I guess, the most generic kind, in that I simply believe that, believe it or not, as insane as this might sound to you guys, we are all a part of God, literally, in a literal sense.
Okay,
the universe is one thing, and that we are a part of it.
Yeah, I think that to us it just sounds like you've come up with another word for universe. And
I understand that, yeah.
The curiosity that I have would be...
Well, here's where we deviate. I could tell you where we deviate pretty strongly, and we do not expect those of a scientific mindset to follow us out here in this land, but where we would deviate, I would assume for most scientists, is that at least... I can't speak for all. I speak for my group and myself, which is that we believe that that God, the universe, is in fact, a living thing. Believe it or not, that we are all in fact part of a great living being.
You keep saying "believe it or not," and there's probably really good reasons.
I expect not.
There's probably really good reasons for that because. So if you and I agree on what the universe is.
Yes.
I
guess we don't fully agree on what
right,
it
because
is,
you
we agree. It's we I see the same thing you do, but we might call it something a little different. Like
it's not. Like, Daniel, hang on.
Hang on, that's okay.
Sorry.
We could define all the characteristics of the universe, and I'm assuming that we would largely agree.
Yes.
But you're adding something to that while also saying that it's synonymous. And I would like to know what's the justification for adding something to that, because the God label carries some baggage. And if you say that God and the universe are synonymous, then you're simultaneously trying to add the baggage and deny the baggage.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, essentially that is the gist of what we do. But we see it pretty clearly that what we do is just... We go with science so far, but then we add this extra.
Why?
Yeah, and that to me would be, if you're already working from a premise that you acknowledge the superiority of the scientific method as as a method for evaluating truth claims reliably, why think that that needs to be improved upon if it's already getting it right?
And needs to have. I don't really think it needs to be improved upon. I would say the scientific method is good the way it is, and the progress it makes is very good. But we simply, where I guess we kind of do disagree with, I guess, some scientists, is that we believe there's more that we can't observe and measure, but there is more.
Yeah, but I think that where science and you guys part ways at that point is scientists get to the point and say, well, we've sort of reached the bit of, where our present level of knowledge stops.
Oh yeah,
and
I understand that. We wouldn't want scientists to agree with us. That would mean you're doing a terrible job.
Okay, then why do you agree with
why do you believe it? Because what I'm getting out of this is that you respect science, but you still like the bit about religion, traditional religion, that allows the believer to kind of anthropomorphize the universe, projecting yourself.
If I could go into just a bit of detail, we do not claim to have any sort of knowledge.
Yeah, I know you're not, making. I know you're not making absolute truth claims, but you do have this belief that you're trying to, get us to at least see why you.
Yeah.
I'm not. I understand. You're not making a claim about absolute certainty. That's good, because I don't think you can be absolutely certain about anything.
Oh yeah.
You're not making a claim to necessarily knowledge. I get that. You're making a claim that you believe something, and we keep asking for what is the justification for this belief. And so far we've heard, well, we think there's more, which is just telling us again what you believe, not why. And you've also said that, well, when science reaches its limit, we keep going. And my thing is, here's a soft drink bottle, and somebody could call me and say that they're convinced that there's something more to this soft drink bottle. And even though science can't find it, they think that they're justified in believing that there's something more. And I want to know why. Because
I can get into that with you. That's okay. If you don't mind, it might require a bit of, detail orientation. I don't want to chew your ear off, but I can get into what we see as the proof.
Sure. Really, my biggest concern isn't so much what people believe, it's why they believe it, because that's the important part. If you believe something and you don't have good reasons, why would you, I don't understand how you could recognize that you don't have good reasons and hang on to it. So you seem to think that you have good reasons for thinking that there's something more that would qualify the universe as God.
A living organism of some sort.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think I have good reasons. I can get into either one, either our what we take as proof or our reasons. Which would you want first?
I don't know. Whichever one's best.
Yes. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Whichever one is most succinct and on point.
Sure. I'll start with the reason, because I think it's more important. The reason is that we truly do feel there is a deeper connection that we sometimes experience between. Not just between people, it can even happen between like a person and an animal per se. Sometimes there's this deeper connection.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, and
how could somebody say that they have a deeper connection with this soft drink?
Well, it's
yes, that's true.
True. More to the point of what Matt is trying to, we're trying to pry out of you here. Okay, you keep sort of reiterating what we feel, what we believe, what we do. We're really just sort of interested in why. Okay, we get it. You feel there is a deeper connection. Why do you feel there is that deeper connection? That needs to go beyond science for the understanding. See, that's what we're getting at. We're getting to the reasons for all of this, and you keep essentially just restating what it is, what the belief is that you have, what the feeling is that you have, and we're still, we're about the wherefores here.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to get to the wherefores too. I don't want to bore you guys.
Yeah.
But so the why and the where we believe this is because we have found really that believing this has made us do more positive things and it's made me a better person. Really.
Okay. Somebody could say that about any number of things, which tells you nothing at all about whether or not they're true, right?
Yeah, exactly. No,
So arguing for the utility, for practical benefits, for example, believing that you're going to make it through a situation could encourage you to do things that make it more likely that you're going to get through the situation, but that doesn't tell you anything about the base belief.
Okay, so to apply that to us, then we truly do believe that even if, and we do accept criticism, so we accept the possibility we could be wrong, but we believe that
I'm not concerned about whether you're willing to.
Even if we are incorrect.
That's a shifting of the burden of proof.
Yeah.
To simply say, hey, we accept the possibility that we could be wrong, means that you're sitting around for somebody to demonstrate that you are wrong and that you're going to hold on to your belief until that happens. And what I'm asking you to do is justify why someone should believe this in the first place. The burden of proof is on the claim that there's something more.
Oh yeah, I understand that. That's why we really can't. I mean, we just have to accept that we don't have
all right,
that
all right. Okay,
so you accept that you can't, and yet you believe it anyway. Why do you think that this is rational or good? Could not that justification be used for any belief?
That is what we hear from traditional religionists. That it's when we speak to a traditional Christian, even whether they're liberal or fundamentalist or what have you, and ultimately they will get back to, well, you just have to take it on faith at a certain point in the arguing process, and at that point, kind of the discussion's kind of done, because you have to realize that you've got different ontological ways of processing, what goes into your head, and there at a certain point there's no real conversation that you can have because you're just coming at it from,
There has to be a way to distinguish whether or not you're right in order to justify believing something.
Yeah, we get that you have a respect for the scientific method, but we also get that you have this set of beliefs that goes beyond that. And I understand that you're, even though you don't expect us to agree with you, you're trying to get us to at least understand where you're coming from and why it is you believe what you believe. But you haven't really actually given us that information. You just sort of keep reiterating, this is what we feel, this is what we believe, and now you've kind of gotten to the point where you kind of have to just buy it at a certain point, and it's just starting to sound like a bit more of a sexed up, pro-science version of what is traditionally religious, belief.
Oh yeah, no, it is religious belief, but see, where I think we really do differ a bit, I mean, at least from other faiths, is that we really do try to progress and understand things. I mean, for instance,
how can you?
Yeah,
you can't even explain why someone should believe this. There's nothing about your belief that is distinctive. It is in fact anti-scientific. It is irrational. And yet it encourages us to do good things. Okay, well, there's all kinds of ways to encourage people to do good things without having to necessarily believe that the universe is a god.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
But every time I try to get to a distinction that shows why you believe that this is true, you got nothing more than I just believe it's true.
Well, it's because, I mean, the only way I could explain it would probably be a bit unsatisfactory, which is just that when I was told about this belief, and I didn't have belief before that, I was a Christian for like the first third of my life. Then I was atheist. And then I came across this belief, and it just clicked. I felt I understood what they were saying.
So if somebody came up to you with another belief that had just as vacuous a foundation as this one, would you then believe it?
No.
Okay, yeah. So then aren't you admitting that you believe for no good reason?
Well, the way I look at it is that I was kind of shopping, and the way to...
You were shopping for an explanation and an answer and something that felt significant, and rather than caring about whether or not it's true, you went with the one that felt right.
No, I went with the one that connected with me in a way I wasn't.
How the hell is that different from felt right?
That's a traditional reasoning of pretty much the follower of most religions.
I accept that. That's true.
And we're not trying to.
The same thing that brings me to this one.
So do you care whether or not your beliefs are true?
Okay, see, you hesitate.
Honestly, not.
Okay, I do, and so we'll move on to talk to people who may care whether or not.
We appreciate the explanation, but that ultimately that's the separator. You get to the point where you're satisfied with a belief because it gives you the warm fuzzies,
I'm pretty sure I do care, but it's just something I haven't really thought about much.
I'm pretty sure that you think you care, but everything about what you've said, about what you believe, demonstrates that you don't actually care. Because if you care, then you try to find out whether or not your beliefs are true, and you try to find good reasons to believe and good reasons to disbelieve claims. That's how you distill whether or not a belief's true. And in your case, you started off with, hey, we really like science, but where science doesn't get us an answer, we're just going to take a leap on what feels good. Well, that is demonstrably irrational, because you could justify any belief using that same method.
And we get, and we know that
that's true. Religion
kind of works in this world of emotional logic, which is not always strictly intellectual logic. And if it's personal, if it provides a personal sense of emotional satisfaction, we understand that. That is an appeal of religion generally. But I don't really. There's nothing that sets your universal pantheism apart from, I would say, Christianity or any of the other Abrahamic faiths or paganism or what have you, just because you happen to wave the flag of hooray science more often than those guys do.
The biggest difference is that they have a list this long of unsupported positions that they accept, and your list is a little bit shorter.
Well, I think our list is a lot shorter, actually, but we won't quibble.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: is
the point isn't how long the list is. The point is how well supported the list is.
I agree. Our small list is just as unsupported. This is
okay.
True.
All right.
But could I just mention this real quickly, please?
Sure, man.
That a lot of these other faiths, they'll come to you saying, where is your proof? And they tend to point to, a book or an ancient writing. But we will at least point to something that most people have told us they feel. Is something that can be repeated. We usually point to something actually kind of specific, but I don't want to, I know you guys don't want all the minutia, but we really do think that there are very specific instances of things that happen in the world that that point to something. And I don't mean vagueness. I mean, say, for instance, what we look at, one thing we think is a bit of a proof is the amount of altruism that people show. We really do honestly think, I don't knock behavioral ecologists, but I really do think that Darwinian evolution does not quite account for 100%.
So what? So what? The fact that hang on.
Okay.
The fact that a particular model does not account for something does not mean you have any justification to accept a model that does.
Yeah.
Because the accounting for it is on no foundation at all. I mean, any number of untrue claims that you just want to accept could justify altruism, but I'll also disagree with you as to whether or not we have a decent account for altruism. And one of the best answers is that it is in fact ultimately selfish, even when it appears that it's not. Because
I'm aware of that. I've looked at journal articles and things, and I actually think mostly they're on the ball, but it still seems, and I've even talked to some ecologists who agree that there is a bit too much. It occurs with a frequency a bit high, and I realize scientifically the best thing.
A bit too much for what?
Both the frequency and intensity of altruism is a bit higher than what evolution by natural selection.
Really? How did you reach that conclusion? What calculation can you do to determine how much altruism we should expect in a naturalistic universe?
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, you can't. This is a feeling.
Okay, so if you can't, then you don't get to say there's too much. You don't get to pretend like you can quantify the unquantifiable.
Well, exactly. I understand this is something that can't be quantified, but I mean, this is just something that me and a lot of other pantheists kind of agree on, that we really do feel like there's more than what science accounts for a bit.
Okay, I really don't care.
Yeah, because you're back to doing the thing that traditional religionists do in exactly the same way. Christian creationists will point to, these are this, that, and the other gaps in evolutionary theory, and because of those, there must be something more that science can't quite explain, and so we will God of the gaps that into a solution. So you come back to, I think, just being the same kind of traditional religion that you claim to have risen above.
So let me ask you one last question before we move on to John, who will get queued up in a second. Let's say you were doing a call-in show to discuss what people believe and why. How many calls would you take from people who admitted, I believe this and I have no good reason why I believe it?
Maybe a few. I would kind of do case by case and kind of.
And why would you take those calls?
It would depend if they thought they had something interesting to bring to the table, or if they were just kind of
Okay.
being
I'll
aggressive.
tell you why I'm willing to take those calls for a little while, and it has nothing to do with whether or not they bring anything interesting to the table, because by definition, they are not bringing anything interesting to the table. The point is to demonstrate to people and educate people that there's nothing interesting being brought here. There's nothing substantive, there's nothing demonstrable, and as people acknowledge, hey, I believe this and I don't have good reasons for it, but it really feels right. And if you can get people to recognize that this is what they're doing, then maybe you can get them to start caring about whether or not their beliefs are true and to stop believing things. To simply say, oh, there's more altruism than we would expect. First of all, you have no way to calculate that, to make that determination. But even if you did, even if we were somehow able to put altruism units on something and determine how many altruism units we're likely to see under methodological or under a naturalistic universe by purely Darwinian means, that doesn't tell you what the explanation is for the extra altruism. And so you don't get to just say, oh, well, I think the explanation is this, and therefore it's rational. And it gets a position where people are acknowledging that they are being irrational while trying to proclaim that they are in fact being rational.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's just, I guess, when you're in a sort of faith for a while, you can start to see it. You're surrounded by those people, and you can start to see it as rational. I guess.
So
I really do have to
up?
think about my belief more.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate the call. Thank you.
I'm happy.
Thank you for giving me a fair shake. I appreciate it. Guys.
Anybody who's willing to rethink things based on new information or a different perspective, good for you. So we'll get.